All right. Thank you. Thank you. I love technology when it works. And you know what? I've learned, especially during this season, how to pivot and shift during this season to work around things that don't work. So I'm Lisa Stewart. It's Tuesday and we got Tuesday Talks. And today is exciting day because one, it's actually my first guest that I've never met before, but someone that I've admired for a couple reasons. So first of all, welcome, Erica Mandy. I'm
Thank
gonna say
you.
welcome.
It's what I do in my show. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'm so happy to be here and talk with you.
Oh, I'm so excited. And so Erica has a podcast called The Newsworthy, which is fast, fair, and fun. This is where I get my morning news from every morning. And you guys know I'm all about health, what we put in our minds, bodies, everything. And I always say, turn that news off, but stay informed. So Erica is my go-to to keep me informed. So I'm going to give a little bit of information. I have posted, you guys can look down on the page and see more about her links and stuff. But the thing I think I was most excited about Erica is I love women that think outside the box because I'm totally an outside the box girl. And I love the fact that you, what was it, a couple years ago, you were named one of out of 50 women that are changing the entertainment and media world there. So something that I'm not used to is you're in a whole different spectrum. So tell us who Erica Mandy is.
Sure. Well, first, I just want to thank you because I know I see you sharing about the show and talking about it and listening. And that just means the world to me. It truly is my motivation to hear from listeners like you who feel less anxiety about news or feel more informed, but without feeling overwhelmed. And so thank you for that. And that really is what drives me. So I actually studied journalism in college, and then I worked in television news for over 10 years. And I worked my way up from a small town in Missouri to Los Angeles, which is the second largest news market in the country. It was kind of my dream job, right? But after 10 years in the business, I kind of looked around and I was talking to people, and I realized that the way that people were consuming news was not only changing, but also people were feeling overwhelmed by the news. They felt it was depressing and time consuming and biased. And I just decided that there has to be the cliche, like there has to be a better way, right? So I started researching, and I got really into podcasting, and I saw what was happening in the podcasting world, that it was on the upward trend while TV news and radio was on the downward trend. And I thought this would be a great way to help people stay informed and stay sane without kind of the overwhelm and feeling depressed and feeling like you're having arguing pundits all the time in your face. Um, Podcasting would be the great way because they can listen on the go. You don't have to stare at another screen. You can listen while you're doing something else and get your news, know what you need to know, and get on with your day. So basically, I quit my six-figure TV news job to take a risk and say, let me try this for at least 1 year. And I kind of gave myself that deadline. If people like it within the 1 year, we'll keep going. And if not, I'll pivot again. And I trusted myself to be able to figure out something else. And so thankfully, in that 1 year, we have continued to grow and have gotten good feedback, and people like you are resonating with it. So we feel even more passionate about our mission to help people stay informed, but in a better way, that what we call fast, fair, and fun.
I love that. And I love the fact that how you realize things were shifting as far as TV. People aren't watching TV anymore. People aren't watching that kind of news. And that you were ahead of the game, especially now. So this being a crazy time in our world, you did TV for 10 years. You've been doing this 2.5 years. So in the last 12.5 years, would you say this is your craziest year ever? News?
Yeah, I mean, this is the most widespread news story. This is something that truly impacts our country across the board and the world across the board. And so I would say it's definitely the most impactful story that I've ever covered. Craziest, I mean, I've been in some interesting situations, so I don't know if it's the craziest, but it definitely is the most impactful and the most important for so many people to know what's going on, to stay informed, to take individual action for the good of the community. So I do feel like it's even more important for people to know what's going on, but also not panic and not have that overwhelm and that fear that doesn't do anyone any good. You know, mental health is so important at this time. So we have to find that balance. And that's something that we always try to do with the Newsworthy, but especially now.
Yeah. So tell us, with an election year, with the virus, with everything going on, how do you address people without, I'm sure it'd be hard because you do very unbiased news, and that's why I appreciate you, is how do you keep yourself able to continue to do that? You know, you're hearing probably both sides, and to be able to, okay, this is the unbiased, this is how you might be feeling over here. How do you continue to do that during this season?
Well, I think there's a couple of ways. One being, we do all the research for you. So it's not just looking at one news source or one reporter's perspective or one opinion. We purposely and consciously look at a wide variety of news sources. We talk to our own experts and we bring all of that information. And then the kind of the way, what I've been able to do over 10 years as a TV news reporter is take a lot of information and break it down into the most important parts. But I've been able to take that in a way that I'm now looking at all of this different information, not just my own research, but other people's research, and condensing it. So one way is just simply looking at all the perspectives out there. I mean, we spend hours and hours putting together a show that's just 10 minutes because we're trying to do all of that research for you instead of you feeling like you have to look at 3 articles to get the full story. We're doing that. And then we go back and we reread what we wrote after doing all that research with a critical eye. And right now, I didn't at the beginning, but I now have a team. So I will come in and see what they wrote with another critical eye. And then we're going through each sentence. And is there an opinion or a perspective that we haven't flushed out? Is there a perspective that we need to check on something or check on a different opinion? And so we're doing that with average of 10 stories a day. And so that's one of our main selling points of the show. And so we take it really seriously with every episode to come in with a critical eye. Are we looking at all the different opinions?
Love that. So what's a typical day for you? Like, you start this, because you have that news out there. What time do you produce? What time do you get up? When's this going on?
Yeah. So I'm on the West Coast. So we're on Pacific time, but we want to make sure that it's ready for the people on the East Coast waking up early. So we say it's ready by 4 a.m. Eastern time. So in order to do that, my team and I just stay up really late before going to bed. So I actually work on the business side of things during the day and then maybe take a dinner break. And then I come back and my team has already started putting together the show the evening before. And so between about 8 p.m. and midnight, my time, I'm going through that show. We're making any changes necessary, putting in any late breaking news. And then I'm recording around 11 or midnight, my time. And we're publishing by 1 a.m. Pacific time, which is 4 a.m. for the people waking up on the East Coast. And so I just have kind of those late nights instead of the early mornings to make sure it's ready for everyone in the country.
There you go. And where does someone find you on there? Your podcast is called?
The Newsworthy. So any podcast app, that can be the purple app on your phone on Apple Podcasts, that can be Spotify, anywhere where you can pretty much get audio, you can find The Newsworthy. Just search The Newsworthy, or to make it really easy, just go to thenewsworthy.com.
So what advice do you have for someone out there that says, you know what, that girl followed her dreams and she went so far, and then she shifted and even went a different direction because she could see things going on? How do you encourage someone out there right now, especially during this economy? I know people, some people are freezing while other people are thriving because they're seeing, you know what, this isn't working, but I need to go this direction. How do you give someone some advice, some ideas on how to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things. One is to experiment. Do your research and see what feels good to you. So if you're not ready to quit your job, you can try something on the side, dip your toe in, see how it feels, see if you want to stick with it beyond the honeymoon phase that feels so exciting when you first start. So after 2 weeks, if you're excited to learn even more, and now you've done it for a couple of months and you feel like you're getting momentum, then you can maybe quit your job and go after it. Or talk with people. Because I'll tell you, before I came up with the idea for the Newsworthy and I was thinking, should I stay in TV news or not? I talked with someone else about a totally different job, a freelance writing gig. And I did a little freelance writing on the side for them. And I had coffee with them and an interview with them. And then I realized, you know what, this isn't what I thought it was. And so I don't want to do this anymore. But it was the opposite when I came up with the idea for the Newsworthy. I became more and more passionate about it the more that I researched it. So use that as a clue to what works for you and what doesn't. It's okay to try things that don't work out. You don't have to take some grand gesture of quitting your job before you've even tried something. And then I would say trust yourself to be able to figure it out if it doesn't work. So as I mentioned earlier, I had it in my mind that I'm not going to give it less than a year because it takes time to grow something, but I'm not going to give it more than a year if it doesn't seem to be catching on. And so I had that in my mind that I'm going to give it this 1 year. And if at that time it didn't work, I trusted myself to find another job, to figure something else out. And that gave me permission to go for it.
I love that, because I hope that gave someone listening today permission to that. That's not a failure. You don't have to say this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to stick with it. Whatever is, you had a goal, you had a deadline, you're going to say you're going to make it or break it, and you went forward with it. What's next for you? What's next for your company?
So we're still experimenting and thinking about that. I think the big thing is to have our main mission, our main goal on whatever platform people want it. So maybe that's continuing and expanding our podcast network into local regions or just a completely different show and expanding, but with the same idea in mind. Or maybe that's, I always say in 5 years, maybe we're doing virtual reality. Who knows? We're ready to be flexible as long as it's providing our main mission to the people that want it where they want it. And I think for what our main mission is really like 4 things that people can do to stay informed and stay sane. So if you want me to go through those, I'm happy to do that, just to kind of let people know, whether or not you listen to the Newsworthy, how to handle a time like this.
I love that. Let's do that. 4
Okay,
things.
perfect. So number 1 is don't sit in the tragedy. And this can be uncertainty, whatever it is for the moment. And that means don't watch 3 hours of breaking news on CNN, right? If we're just sitting in the negativity, we're not really feeling any more informed. We're just feeling more anxious. So listen to 10 minutes of the Newsworthy or whatever source you go to, look at it for 10, 15 minutes in the morning, maybe something else in the evening so you can make sure you're informed, but then move on with your day. It doesn't do you any good to just sit in all of the craziness. Number 2 is to listen to other perspectives. So perspectives that are not your own. And, we really, as I was talking about earlier, we really focus on that, making sure we're pulling from different experts, different reporters, and bringing in our own as well, so that we're giving this kind of unbiased look. And I think people need to do that within their own lives. Make sure you're getting out of your own echo chambers. And I think that leads to more compromise, listening to each other. We can disagree and still respect each other. Number 3 is to look for solutions, not just problems. So yes, we need to know that some people are dying from COVID-19, right? But we can also talk about the people working on a vaccine. We can also talk about all the people who are recovering. We can talk about the solutions and the helpers as much as we're talking about the problems. And I think having a news outlet that does that for you is really important, even in those 10 or 15 minutes that you are getting it, so that you don't just have a negative mindset about everything that's going on. And number 4 is similar, but it's variety is the spice of life, is like how I like to say it. And that means have a variety of news. Yes, we all need to stay informed about what's happening with COVID-19, but that's not all that's happening in the world. We can talk about how Amazon is changing their delivery systems, even if it's part of what's happening with the pandemic. It's also something that impacts our life that's interesting. We can talk about how there's going to be a historic space flight next month and what's happening with that. we can talk about good news and positive news and people doing good in the world. And so I think when you kind of combine those four things, you can feel really informed, but also optimistic.
I like that. Speaking of, in fact, this morning, one of your news that you talked about is that Walgreens is going to start doing their delivery via drone.
Yeah, they're using, is it Walgreens? Oh my gosh, now I'm going to forget which one it is. Maybe it's Walgreens. It's one of those drugstores. They're using UPS's drones, as kind of a pilot program. They're doing it a little bit in North Carolina, UPS is, but now they're doing it some in Florida as well. So they're going to use drones to deliver medications to retirement communities.
I heard that, and it may not have been Walgreens. When I was listening to it, I was on
I'm trying to remember.
And I was by a Walgreens, and I was like, and it just kind of like, do that. The thing I do love with your program is it used to be part of our routine. We turned it on every morning driving to the gym, and that was the first thing Gary and I listened to before, we did our stuff at home, but we're heading to the gym. We'd turn it on and blast it in his truck on our way, get to the gym, and we had our 10 minutes of news. Then we went through that week where we're like, the gym is closed. Now, what are we doing? Figuring life out. And now we're back in our routine. And I kind of went a week or two there without listening every day. I would catch every once in a while. And I think Gary probably caught more than I did. So he would inform me if there was something really good. But for me, the most helpful thing is knowing that, you know what, get back in your routine, whatever your new routine is, and make this part of it. But also being informed is so much, I'll see something on Facebook and I'm like, okay, I have no idea what they're talking about because I'm not informed. And I don't need to know all the details, but I do need to know what happened. So I'll ask Gary and he goes, oh yeah, Erica talked about that yesterday.
That's right, Gary. Good job.
So that's what I love about the program. So
I think getting into that routine is so important to just feel a little bit normal again. Maybe you're not driving to work or doing something that you normally do, but find your new normal, even if it's just a couple of things. So maybe while you're getting the coffee, you're listening to something, or you're going for a walk around the block. Or I know even for me, I used to go to a lot of workout classes. So now it's become part of my routine to do a virtual workout instead, or I'm listening to podcasts while I'm doing my laundry instead of, driving to work. So find what that is for you. And I do think that makes a big difference to try to find some sense of normal in what is definitely not normal right now.
Absolutely. And I think one thing, listening to educated news, unbiased news, being informed it's powerful. It's powerful that you know enough of what's going on. Like you said, that not everybody over here is dying with Corona. We have other stuff good going on. And being informed, it gives you so much more power. So that's what I wanted you to speak to everyone about and I appreciate you coming on here today. And I hope you guys will go follow her. I'll put all the links in this recording after I post it so that you guys can follow her, tag her on, just share her little clip. I always take a picture of her podcast and put up on the top because let people know about her. Let people know that she is your go-to news source because one, she's a woman, she's out there doing things and we love supporting each other, but it is really great information that she's sharing with us.
We hope so. I mean, I think you can make better decisions in your lives when you know what's going on. So thank you for saying that. I so appreciate you as a listener and a person doing great things and changing people's lives with your own business.
Thank you. All right. So I'll put all the information in there. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll stop